So if you could just give a little introduction of yourself and your project.
Sounds good. Hi, I'm Paul, and I'm from Celer. Celer is a unified layer 2 scaling platform that unifies different techniques of layer 2 scaling as a single platform for developers to build highly scalable, extremely low cost, and easy to use applications. Right now we have a strong focus on state channel networks, and we have recently launched a mainnet upgrade of our state channel networks with fully open source mainnet node code. So think of this as Lightning, but on Ethereum with much stronger capability beyond just the simple payments. It can also process smart contract transactions in these state channels with extremely low cost and interactive in real time.
So is there a token along with the network, or?
Yes, so for the token side of things, just like a layer 1 blockchain have a crypto economic incentive of generating consensus using proof of stake or using proof of work, or getting transaction fees. In layer 2 system, there is also crypto economics problem to be solved, and that is in the state channel network, that is a state availability problem. That is basically when users are offline, there has to be a decentralized watchtower service to watch the state, watch the off-chain or layer 2 state for the users, and to become one of the decentralized watchtower participants, you need to stake Celer token, and you can act as a membership token. And once you stake the Celer token and become a watchtower, you do the work of state monitoring, state securing, and you get paid by the users of the network in terms of the transaction fees, and also in terms of block reward when you're staking the token in this network.
Okay. So, can you explain a little bit of the difference in the node protocol? Is that the main difference that allows for more throughput, or?
Yeah, definitely. So, one way to think about layer 2 protocols is this. Think of if we're doing like business transactions every day, we don't actually every day go to the legal court to kind of get the judge to sign off paper to say that, okay, I certify this. This is like all the stuff that we need. We actually do a lot of this stuff between just you and me, or between the involved parties. Right, but we leave a trace of legal document and legal agreement along the way, and whenever there is a dispute that happens or need to be settled, we go to the legal court or go to the justice system to do that. Now, replace the legal court, to layer 1 blockchain, and the usual daily business what we do as layer 2. So layer 2 is taking a cautiously optimistic approach to the transactions. Most of the transactions, most of the interactions will happen between participating users, and only when a dispute happens, these users will revert back to layer 1. So it's like you were on the fast lane and everyone is kind of cooperative, but if one of them is not becoming incooperative, the other people can bring justice to that guy by reverting to the slow path of the layer 1 blockchain. But as long as there's that assurance there, the right thing to do, or the incentive compatible thing to do for everyone, is to stay in the protocol and stay highly cooperative, because only when there's someone with like a system fault, his machine crashed or something like that, this kind of dispute and settlement process will be triggered, because that involves cost for the uncooperating party. So that's how the layer 2 system works in general.
So over the next 5 years, let's say, what are some of the main use cases that you are imagining the product being used for?
Yeah, so we are very heavily focused on the adoption side of things, and we're trying to find and identify the right market niche to enter the use case space. And starting from let's start from like the near term. We just launched a real money, skill-based real money esports gaming application on Apple App Store, and the application is available to play in 37 different States, in the United States, and 131 different countries. And this application allows users to wage in crypto and kind of compete against each other, in this kind of matches, and then win reward in cryptocurrencies as well. We think this particular niche is a very good niche to cut in as the gaming niche, and kind of it provides a very viable business model for our developer ecosystem and also for the offering for the users. And there are many other different application scenarios beyond the gaming scope. Things like micropayment, things like decentralized exchanges, things like off-chain DeFi, and these things are all possible with the capability of what Celer enables as a more scalable and lower cost platform.
So, can you explain a little bit more detail in the gaming world exactly how people would be using the token?
Yeah, so in the gaming world, we built this gaming app called Celer X, CELERX, and you can download it on Apple Store. And how it works is that because of this layer 2 capability, it essentially is a micropayment. It has a micropayment functionality in it. So basically, we can download the app and play games against each other. And when we're wagering, what we did is actually sending a conditional payment towards each other. So I send, let's say, $1 conditionally to you, and you send $1 conditionally to me. And what that condition is conditional depending on our match result. So let's say I win the game, the payment you send to me become valid because that condition becomes true, and the payment I send you become invalid. That condition becomes false. Now, the beauty about this is that the whole process, there is not a single layer 1 blockchain transaction. Therefore, there is no need for any of us to wait for the block confirmation time or pay for the gas fee that we usually need to pay when we're doing layer 1 transactions. So that's how we're showing the advantage of layer 2 and kind of doing that.
So when you operate on your platform, you're saving yourself gas.
Saving ourselves and also our developers gas. So we are also offering a gaming platform for the developers. So as a monetization model for them. So the game developers can just use 2 lines of code and spend 10 minutes of their time to integrate their game into Celer and start to monetize on their great content. How they do that is that let's say both players putting like $1 into the pool, and the winner only takes $1.7, for example, and that 30 cents goes to our developers. So that becomes a very sustainable developer adoption model, to bootstrap a strong and sustainable developer ecosystem. I think one of the major questions that we have been seeing in the industry is that we don't see a lot of ways for the blockchain developer to make sustainable revenue. And I think that is super important in the long term because we need to have a sustainable revenue stream to have a sustainable and kind of a positive feedback loop for growing process.
Do you know what the general fees are that developers are charged in like the Android or Apple stores?
You mean like the in-app purchases?
So if you're a developer for some Android application, a game, you're getting paid, but it's going through Google's services, so they take a cut of. Do you know what that amount is?
Yeah, the cut is very high. The cut is 30% of the revenue for the developers. So that is very high, and we're aiming to change that. And
So I mean, just the decentralized nature of developing apps, it gives incentive to developers to go that route instead of through the App Store because it's going to bring all of the revenue to them.
Well, so here's what we're thinking. So we think that as a decentralized app system or as a blockchain ecosystem in general, we shouldn't be necessarily holding a kind of a hostile attitude towards the existing developer ecosystem or existing application ecosystem. Apple and Google, they're charging fees, I think, in an extremely rightful way because they build the App Store. They built the distribution channel, they bootstrap the ecosystem. There is a whole lot of the capital that is committed to this process. And to let the blockchain applications thrive, we as a newcomer in the broader developer ecosystem need to collaborate with this existing ecosystem. That is also how we are doing it. So when we are talking to Apple App Store, we have been 100% transparent in terms of the things we do, in terms of how we operate, and they're fine with this, and they're kind of gradually accepting things into their App Store and kind of into the app ecosystem. I think the collaborative way goes a long way.
So if you have an app that's deployed, it's built on your network and it's deployed into the Apple App Store.
Right.
When they're making payments through the app, they're making payments with your token.
With cryptocurrency tokens, including Ethereum, our token, and many other tokens, they can do that as well.
So then, does that make Apple hesitant to allow decentralized apps in their App Store because it's going to potentially take revenue away from them?
That is a great point, and a lot of blockchain developers and a lot of blockchain games get stuck right on that spot. And think of anything related to NFTs. NFT is extremely hard to push into Apple App Store because of exactly what you said, in-app purchase revenues. But for us, we are operating in a realm called real money gaming, or skill-based real money gaming. And it has been Apple's long-term policy to not charge the skill-based real money gaming deposits as an in-app purchase event, because it's almost like you're using Vimo to do some deposit instead of kind of purchasing a virtual good. Users are not purchasing virtual good or like game items, but really just like transferring their funds into their wallet. So it's on the same level of PayPal, Vimo, and all that stuff, different from, let's say, like Candy Crush, buying like candies.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Do you want to maybe give, from kind of the entrepreneurial type perspective, a little bit of your background story on how you kind of got to where you're at right now with building this network?
Yeah, sure. So I was born and raised in China, and went to college in Shanghai. And during my undergrad years, I started a startup called it's kind of an activity startup where we kind of use machine learning to gather all the activity information around the school to post and push to interested users. It's kind of an information push system that we built, and that has been running pretty well even until today. And then I came here to do my Ph.D. study in computer science from UIUC, and my main focus has been in decentralized system and networking systems. That's how I got into the blockchain technology, because that's basically where the blockchain technology falls. And during my PhD years and also like afterwards, I collaborated with my PhD advisor, on a startup also. It's called Veriflow, and it's a network verification startup, and it's acquired by VMware. And then after Veriflow, I started Celer, because this is where my enthusiasm is, and I really think the blockchain can bring significant changes to the payment ecosystem, to how network operates, to how networks and applications are reaching to users globally. So that's how we started this, and Celer was co-founded by 4 of my, including me, 4 friends. We are all PhD students. We were all PhD students back then, but many of us has many years of experience from like Google and top startups from Silicon Valley, and we got background from MIT, Princeton, UC Berkeley, and me myself from here. So this is like how the whole thing got started.
So there's a lot of people that I would say, have good ideas, but there's a huge taking your good idea and even getting to the point where people may be interested in giving you some funding. So from your experience, what was one of the kind of most important things with you interacting with, like you said, your professor, right, who was into startups and getting the ball rolling?
Yeah, so getting the ball rolling is really about I think the most important thing is the commitment and execution. So I think there are a whole lot of great ideas out there, and there are, for as any given great idea, there are probably 100 different people working on the same idea. So there's no like idea is sacred kind of thing, but more about execution and commitment and risk taking. So I work like basically around the clock, and it definitely takes some commitment, and also a very important thing is to build a team from my network and my friends. So a strong team that is backing me up is also extremely important to kind of push this quickly forward and launch this thing quickly. It wouldn't be happening if we didn't have a great team.
What were some of the main hurdles that you ran into getting up to this point?
So the main hurdle, I think, is really, I would say, like the main risk going forward, including the main hurdle in the past, is that I have been constantly thinking about for blockchain technology, what is the right market niche to tap into, right? So we have a technology that is extremely young and extremely kind of fragile comparing to all the other technology around it, but it also is very strong fundamentally and having extremely high advantage in certain cases, especially lowering the trust, flattening the entire financial barriers. How to find a market niche that is tolerant to the young and the immaturity of the blockchain application and can really let the trust-free side of things shine is something that I constantly think about, and I will always think until we reach 1 billion users, for example, in the blockchain, using the blockchain technology, and I think that's kind of as an industry as a whole as well.
What are your thoughts on BitTorrent token and Justin Sun kind of purchasing a huge user base that now he had the user base and he inserted the token into it? Are you kind of staying up to date with those other things happening?
Yeah. So I think that's a very interesting approach. The effectiveness of that remains to be seen. Again, whether the token itself, I'm not exactly familiar with the token model of the BitTorrent token. My understanding, may be wrong, is it's a payment token to pay for premium download speed.
Yeah, exactly. It's bidding for faster downloads.
It's bidding for faster downloads. Then it's a question of like, whether that's a sustainable business model to sustain or some other things like that. But I think that's an interesting approach to kind of try to attack the mainstream audience.
Do you want to go ahead and just let people know where they can find out more information about the network? And
yeah, absolutely. So you can always find more information about us at celer.network, and you will find all sorts of links, including developer links and also our Telegram chats and different social accounts chats in the website, and also you can download our app and give it a try, and maybe win some crypto on Apple Store and Google Play. It's the name, the application name is called Celer X, CELERX.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
Celer Network, check it out. Thank you.
Yeah.